Deep in the dark forest, a beautiful princess was running for her life, escaping her evil stepmother. But the evil queen found her. Did one bite, and she fell into a deep sleep.
Exploring the timeless tale of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our biggest session yet on English Snap Lab. I am so thrilled you are here. Today, we aren't just telling a story. We are entering a world of mirrors, magic, and deep forest secrets. We are exploring the timeless tale of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Deep in the dark forest, a beautiful princess was running for her life, escaping her evil stepmother. Exhausted and lost, she stumbled upon a mysterious tiny cottage. Who could possibly live here? But the evil queen found her. Disguised as an old woman, she handed Princess a beautiful but deadly poisonous apple. One bite, and she fell into a deep sleep. But true love's kiss broke the curse. Want more classic stories in this fun animated style?
This is a masterclass. Our focus today is twofold. Comparative adjectives. We will learn how to compare everything, from who is fairer to who is deadlier. Personality traits. We will go deep into the human side of language to describe how people act and feel. By the end of this video, you will have the vocabulary to describe anyone's appearance and character with perfect precision. Let's look into the magic mirror and begin. Part 1. The Queen's Obsession. Once upon a time, in the dark heart of winter, a queen sat sewing by a window with a frame made of black ebony wood. As she watched the snow fall, she pricked her finger with her needle. 3 drops of bright red blood fell onto the white snow. It looked so beautiful that she whispered, "I wish I had a child as white as snow, as red as blood, and as black as the ebony wood." Soon after, a daughter was born. She was exactly as the queen had imagined. Her skin was whiter than a winter cloud. Her lips were redder than a summer rose. Her hair was darker than the deepest midnight. They named her Snow White. Grammar Note 1. Short adjectives. When we compare two things with short words, one syllable, we add er. White, whiter. Red, redder. Dark, darker. Many years passed, and the king married a second time. The new queen was stunningly beautiful, but her heart was colder than ice. She was vainer and crueler than any woman in the kingdom. Vain means she loved her own face more than anything else. She possessed a magic mirror. Every morning she stood before the mirror and asked, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" The mirror always replied, "You, my queen, are the fairest in the land." And the queen was happy because she could not stand for anyone to be prettier than her. But Snow White was growing up. Each year she became kinder, gentler, and more beautiful. One morning, the queen asked her usual question, but the mirror's voice was louder and firmer than before. "You, my queen, are fair, it is true, but Snow White is 1,000 times fairer than you." The queen turned paler than a ghost. Her jealousy was stronger than her reason. She ordered a huntsman to take Snow White into the forest to ensure she never returned. Part 2. The Deep Forest and the Tiny Cottage. The huntsman took Snow White deep into the woods, but when he saw her innocent face, he realized he was weaker than his orders. He was a merciful man. "Run away," he whispered. "Run until you are further than the queen can reach." Snow White ran. She ran past jagged rocks and through thick, thorny bushes. The forest grew darker, and the sounds grew scarier, until finally she saw a tiny light flickering between the trees. It was a tiny cottage. She stepped inside. Everything was smaller than she had ever seen. There was a table with 7 tiny plates and 7 tiny spoons. Exhausted, she lay across the 7 tiny beds and fell into a heavy sleep. As the sun was setting, the owners of the house returned. They were 7 dwarfs who spent their days digging for gold in the mountains. They were hardworking and brave, but each had a very different personality trait. Let's meet them. Doc. He was the wisest. He wore glasses and was more organized than the others. Grumpy. He was the most irritable. He complained that the house was dirtier than usual. Happy. He was more optimistic than a bird in spring. He was always laughing. Sleepy. He was lazier than a cat. He could sleep anywhere. Bashful. He was shyer than a forest deer. He blushed when he saw Snow White. Sneezy. His nose was more sensitive than a perfume tester's. He struggled with hay fever. Dopey. He was the silliest and the quietest, but he was also the sweetest. Part 3. The Queen's Deception. Snow White told the dwarfs her story. They decided she would be safer with them. "You can stay," said Doc, "but you must be more cautious than a mouse. Do not let anyone into the house." Meanwhile, back at the palace, the Queen asked her mirror again. The mirror replied, "Snow White is still alive, and she is fairer than ever in the house of the Seven Dwarfs." The Queen was beyond furious. She created a magical disguise. She made herself look older, uglier, and poorer. She looked like a harmless peddler woman. She also created an apple. One side was green and safe, but the red side was deadlier than a cobra's bite. She traveled across the mountains and towards the cottage. She knocked on the door. "Lovely apples for sale," she called. Snow White looked out of the window. The apple looked sweeter than any fruit she had seen. "It's so red," she thought. The old woman took a bite of the green side to show it was safe. Snow White reached through the window, took the apple, and bit into the red side. Instantly, she fell to the floor. Her breath stayed inside her chest. She looked like she was made of marble. When the dwarfs returned, they found her motionless. They were more miserable than words can say. They could not bury her in the cold, dark earth, because she still looked more beautiful than a living person. So they built a coffin of glass and gold and placed it on a hill. Many years later, a prince from a neighboring kingdom was riding through the forest. He saw the glass coffin shining under the sun. He looked at Snow White and felt a love stronger than any he had known. "She is the most beautiful creature I have ever seen," he whispered. He asked the dwarfs if he could take her to his father's palace. As the prince's servants lifted the coffin, they stumbled over a tree root. The movement caused the piece of poisoned apple to fall out of Snow White's throat. Her eyes opened. She was more surprised than anyone. "Where am I?" she asked. The prince knelt beside her. "You are safer now than you have ever been," he said. They returned to the palace. The evil queen was invited to the wedding. When she asked her mirror one last time, it said, "The new queen is 1,000 times fairer than you." The queen was so horrified that she ran away into the mountains and was never seen again. Snow White and her prince lived a life that was happier, longer, and better than any story ever told. What an incredible journey! We covered a huge amount of English today. Comparative mastery. Short adjectives, er. Whiter, redder, darker, colder, vainer, crueler, prettier, fairer, wiser, lazier, safer. Long adjectives, more beautiful, more organized, more optimistic, more cautious, more miserable. Personality traits. Doc, wise, good at making decisions. Grumpy, irritable, gets annoyed easily. Happy, optimistic, always looks for the good things. Bashful, shy, nervous around others. Prepositions of direction. Into the forest, through the trees, across the mountains, out of the throat. Thank you for spending this long session with English Snap Lab. Your homework, choose one friend. Compare yourself to them using 3 adjectives. Example, I am taller than my friend, but he is noisier than me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more Snap lessons. Keep practicing. See you in the next story.